Our world is becoming more interconnected every day. Because of this, studying abroad is a very important experience for students to have. The Study Abroad Office offers programs in 80 countries worldwide. This is an opportunity for students to have a once-in-a-lifetime experience overseas. Let's hear about what studying abroad is really like. With me here is Craig Harrison, who studied in China last year. So why China, Craig?
Well, I've always wanted to study abroad, and my major is East Asian Studies, so I thought China would be a really great place to see and experience some of the things I've been studying up until now.
So you thought that the study abroad program in China matched your academic goals. Then how are the classes there?
Well, I took 2 full semesters of classes at a university in Beijing, and all the courses I took transferred back home to credit in my major. So as far as classes go, it was a lot less difficult than I had anticipated. In fact, it was quite easy.
That's good.
Yeah, it was.
You know, when students ask me about the study abroad program, they often want to know about where they're going to live. Was housing something you worried about?
Well, prior to leaving for Beijing, I planned to live in the dorms there, but I actually ended up living with a host family instead, which the study abroad offices here on campus arranged for me.
So you're saying the study abroad office organized your homestay. How was that?
It was incredible. I learned so much about Chinese culture. My Mandarin language skills improved quickly because my host family didn't speak much English. Getting to know them was one of the best aspects of my time in China.
If I understand you correctly, you're saying homestays are a great way to learn local language.
Definitely. Homestays really help you to get to know the local culture, too.
Then, was there anything that surprised you about the culture?
A lot, actually. You know, I had read a lot about Chinese culture before going to China, but I don't think I began to really understand it until I went there and experienced it myself.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. I learned that when you're a guest in someone's home and the person offers you food, even if you want it, it's polite to say you don't want it 2 or even 3 times before you accept it.
Wow. So let me make sure I understand. If someone offers me something in China, I should refuse it several times before I accept it because not doing so could be considered impolite?
Yes. You should refuse it about 2 or 3 times. For me, learning about these cultural customs really improved my understanding of China and the people there.
Right. Now, I know that the format for each study abroad program includes trips, events, and other opportunities. What was one of the highlights of your program?
Well, of course, walking the Great Wall and seeing the Forbidden City were great parts of my program. But to be honest, the best part was walking around and exploring the smaller back streets of Beijing called hutongs. I liked seeing everyday life on the streets and being in the middle of the sights, the sounds, and smells of the markets. Everything was so different to me. People were curious about me too, so that made it fun.
Seems like you had a very positive experience. So how would you assess your overall time in China and your program?
Very highly. It was something I'll never forget. You know, I made a lot of good friends in China. I got to study Mandarin where it's really spoken, and I did and saw a lot of really cool things in a foreign country. You know, living abroad helped me mature as a person. So it was great.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on your time in China with us, Craig. And for those of you interested in studying abroad, the Study Abroad office will be giving presentations and consultations this Friday, starting at 6 o'clock in the Student Union building.
Okay, now let's hear what everyone thought about that interview with Yasmin Aslam. Your assignment was to write a reaction to the interview. Ria, can you start? What was your reaction? And class, feel free to jump in with your own thoughts.
Well, actually, I was surprised that video games had any positive qualities. I mean, my little brother still can't get those games out of his system. He's 22 and still plays them every day. My parents keep hoping against hope that he gets a job, but... oh, sorry. Back to viruses and video games. I think it's great that video games can simulate real-world problems. To think my brother and his games could help save someone's life.
Thanks, Ria. Did anyone else write something similar?
Yes, I wrote that good news can appear in the strangest places. You know that's how the medicine penicillin was discovered, right? The story is that Alexander Fleming didn't tidy his workspace. When he came back from vacation, penicillin was growing in some of his petri dishes. Furthermore, it was killing the bacteria that had been growing there. We have to keep our ears to the ground to find out where the next breakthrough will come from. 50 years from now, the World of Warcraft accident might be remembered for helping scientists get ahead of the game with vaccines. Anyway, the thing that I think was the most interesting from the talk is the virus spreading from rural to urban areas. We live in a heavily populated urban area.
You know, I wrote about how the UK has experienced outbreaks of disease. I have a cousin who lives there, and she told me about it. They had a problem with hoof and mouth disease. It affects farm animals mainly, cows, sheep. They thought they'd gotten rid of the disease, but it still persisted in Britain into the 21st century. When it cropped up again, public health officials enforced a strict quarantine. Even though it's very rare that humans contract hoof and mouth disease, officials there didn't take any chances. Animals raised for meat had to be destroyed. It's too bad about the animals, but it made me feel really relieved that the British government acted quickly. It kept my cousin safe, and maybe even people all over the world.
Let's make no bones about it. I also feel safe knowing there are qualified professionals protecting the public from disease. I want to become a public health official one day, because I think research that improves human health is the most important work happening today. Did you hear about the cool DOS? The scientist who recently discovered where tuberculosis bacteria hides in the body. It's been a mystery for decades, but he found it. It hides in bone marrow. You know, the soft material in the middle of some bones. Now that we know where it is, we can develop medicines to treat it better. We can significantly lower the incidence of tuberculosis. Maybe even wipe it out completely.
Yeah, I'd heard about tuberculosis bacteria hiding in the bones. That's a really important discovery. Sometimes I feel like we should all go out and thank a scientist. In situations where people used to be on pins and needles, science is helping people feel more relaxed. Tuberculosis, for example. It's no longer a life or death situation in many places. Now it can be treated. The same goes for my penicillin example earlier. Bacteria can be a silent killer. Now we have tools to fight it. It all just reinforces the idea that we need to be prepared for the next big scientific advance to come from anywhere, maybe where we least expect it.
Thanks, Carrie, and thanks everyone for your contribution.
Hey, Lynn. Hi, Blake. Have you two been waiting long?
No, we just got here. How are you doing, Sam?
Great. Have you started looking at the essay questions yet?
Yeah, there are just two, but they're pretty complex. The first question is, how would you define intelligence? It seems like Dr. Joshi's just trying to invoke some of the different definitions of intelligence that we studied in class.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, intelligence is the ability to learn and solve problems quickly.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, but I think intelligence has to be so much more than that. If we say that it's just the ability to learn fast, then I think we're distorting what intelligence is. From my point of view, there are several types of intelligence, like artistic, musical, or emotional intelligences.
I'm not entirely sure I agree with that. Art seems more like a talent to me, something in a different category than intelligence. Nonetheless, I see what you mean. Intelligence does include more than just the ability to learn. What do you think, Blake?
I'm still trying to determine what I think about it. There do seem to be some underlying factors that we need to consider. For example, musicians or artists seem to have a radically different kind of intelligence than, say, mathematicians or scientists.
I think you're exactly right, which is why I think that to answer the question, we need to discriminate between those different abilities that make someone intelligent. I made some notes. There's problem solving, communication, knowledge, creativity, and also memory.
Good point. The next question is related to the first one. What is the best way to measure intelligence? I haven't really made up my mind on this one. What do you guys think?
To be honest, I think IQ tests are the way to go. They've been used for a long time. IQ tests are fairly good at predicting income, academic performance, and success. Supposedly, the standard IQ test is fair and objective.
You know, I view it somewhat differently. Again, I think the underlying problem with the IQ tests is that it leaves out some functions of the brain, like emotional intelligence. Research shows that people with high emotional intelligence are more likely to be happier and successful in life. So shouldn't that be tested too?
Well put, Sam. I think I'm in agreement with you for the most part. We probably need several ways to test a person's intelligence.
Right. It sounds like you're invoking the theory of multiple intelligences, and I agree. Remember when we studied multiple intelligences tests, which look at 8 different kinds of intelligence? As far as I'm concerned, that's the best way to measure intelligence.
Okay, I think we're getting somewhere. But would you mind if we suspended this discussion for a bit? I need a snack.
Me too. Good idea.
Good idea.